Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the medium in the middle. On this podcast, I share my journey as a developing psychic medium, as a Reiki master teacher, as an Akashic record practitioner, and anything else that's thrown my way. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Medium in the Middle podcast. My name is Stephanie. I am your host, the medium in the middle, and this is episode 129. In this week's episode, I want to discuss something that has come up a few times in my DMs, and last time I did a Q&A on Instagram, I had this question 5 or 6 times, so that means the collective is thinking about it, so let's bring it to the podcast. And that is all about, I guess you could say, drugs and alcohol and spirituality. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to share my opinion and see what you think. I'm really interested to know everybody's opinion on this. So to start off this episode, I'm going to begin with announcements. And my only announcement this week is Mediums in the Mountains is on Sunday. I've been talking about this event for months. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. A medium named Bree arrives in Alberta tomorrow, and we have this event on Sunday where we're doing a big group mediumship reading together. It's going to be 2.5 hours of fun. I'm sure next week's podcast will be all about the event, what happened, what spirit had to say. Group readings are always fun, and a lot of things come through, so you can still get tickets. There's still some left. I'll leave the link down below for that in the show notes. And then for this week's card pull, I pulled from the Rebecca Campbell Work Your Light Oracle deck, and what a great card to pull, Get Grounded. Empaths, highly sensitives, connect with nature. You're being called to get grounded, to ensure that your luminous field is clear and your inner well is full. If you're not grounded, it is all too easy to get swept up in other people's energy and mistake it for your own. Your boundaries will become blurred as you are absorbing the energy around you and struggling to define what is their stuff and what is yours. It's like these words were taken directly from my mouth. If you pulled this card, you are very like an empath or a highly sensitive person, and you need time alone to fill up your well, balance your energy, and get grounded. There are 2 types of people, those who draw their energy from others and those who draw their energy from within. Reflect on which one you are and carve out time each day to ensure your well is being replenished. Being sensitive is a superpower, but like all powers, it needs to be nurtured in order to be fulfilled. It is easy to get swept up in the high-frequency energies that are swirling around the planet. The quickest and most effective way of clearing all of this from your field is to ground yourself by connecting with Mother Earth. There are many ways to get grounded. One of the most powerful ones is to practice earthing by connecting to the power of Mother Earth. Spend time in nature, put your hands on a tree, or walk barefoot on the earth. I feel like I've recently pulled this card, now that I'm reading that last sentence. Anyways, I like that sentence though. Reflect on which one you are. I am definitely a recharge by being alone. I don't understand how people recharge by being with others. But I was talking to a mentee about this, and I said we need to connect something with rest. So, for example, I connect baths with rest, relaxation. So if I'm stressed, if I'm overwhelmed, I have a bath because I almost like Pavlov's dog it, where a bath means resting, relaxing, nothingness. I have time for this, and it really helps me chill out. So if you need something, find a thing, walking, doing the dishes, taking your dog out, whatever it is, but connect it with rest so your body feels like it's being replenished, like your cup is being filled up. So today's episode is based on when I did a Q&A on Instagram a few weeks ago. I received a lot of questions in regards to, is there a link between Reiki, mediumship, and eating meat? Thoughts on mixing alcohol and spirits and spiritual work. So I do have an opinion on this, which I will share, but I do want to say this is my opinion, And I don't think that there is one blanket statement that's correct for everybody. So I'll start with the eating meat portion. I do personally eat meat. I don't eat a ton of meat, but I do. And I have been told before that I, quote unquote, should be vegan and that my body would be a clearer channel if I was vegan and it would be easier for me. But just in my life as I am now, that doesn't seem feasible. I'm already gluten-free and dairy-free, so I already have a lot of limitations. If I added more limitations, I just am not ready for that. Do I think one day I might be vegan? I don't know. Do I have weeks or periods of times where I eat pretty vegan? Yes, but I don't feel it's a necessity at this time. But I do know a lot of spiritual workers who are vegan or who try their very best to keep their bodies, quote unquote, a clear channel. So I would say do what feels best. If you're not resonating with eating meat, don't. If you want to eat meat, I also don't feel like you should feel bad. Everyone's body is different, how it functions is different, and you really have to learn what you need. I'm very aware of like how much water I need. So for example, when I started doing Reiki, my water intake like tripled. So I know I need a lot more water. I know I need a lot of food. I know I need a lot of sleep. There's just things that I know that my body needs in order to function. So I think while it's not necessarily you must be vegan is the way, I do think that you must be aware of what your body needs is really, really important. So just be aware of your own energy and what feels good for you. But to say that like every energy worker, spiritual person, medium should be a vegan, I think is too much of a blanket statement. And I don't know if that's a helpful statement because it's just a lot of shoulds. And I don't think shoulds are very helpful. So that's my opinion on eating meat. Now, when it comes to drugs and alcohol, this is another slippery slope, I say, because there is something called, I believe it's called spiritual bypassing, where you can use drugs or alcohol to kind of avoid reality and avoid doing the work. So I've had people tell me, well, it's easier when I'm on this drug, or I get so much more from my guides when I'm on whatever it may be. And while that might be true, you're cheating and you still cannot pass what you have to experience in the human experience and the grounded experience. It might feel like, you're light years ahead, but you're still going to be pulled back to do the work here. So I would really caution, how you use substances. If you can feel like you can only connect with a certain substance, I would say that's a problem because that means that you're avoiding something in your everyday grounded life. So I like to think of two separate things. There's our grounded everyday life. If I were to put my eyesight right in front of me, what am I doing right now? I'm in the present moment. I'm very much here paying attention. And then there's my balloon life, which is my crown floating around the sky, going upwards into the ethers. And those two things need a balance. So I can't live in my balloon, and I don't always want to be super, super, super present. I need a balance of both. So I want to be able to see, but also be aware. So that's what I would say. Do I think that spiritual people need to be completely sober? I also don't think that. I just don't believe we can blanket anything and say it's one way or the other. Now, I do want to be very specific here. This is about personal time. This is not what you're doing at work. So in your personal time, if you want to drink wine, that is fine, in my opinion. If you are working under the influence of anything, I believe that's a problem. And I believe that's not okay. And I believe that's not ethically okay. Especially if you're like, well, I can get more information when or I understand things more when I'm on. That is just not appropriate. And I do want to talk about how a lot of things require us to be sober and explain the why behind that. So, for example, if you've ever taken a Reiki course, you have to be sober 24 hours prior to the attunements. So for any of my Reiki courses, that means you have to be sober from Friday until Sunday. Why? Because on Saturday you're receiving attunements and on Sunday you're receiving attunements. Why do you need to be sober to receive those? They explain it as your body needs to be a clear channel and you need to be in your complete right mind in order to accept these attunements. So it is like a cleansing, a fasting, whatever you want to say, of preparation in order to receive the attunements. So there is this idea of being in the right mind, being clear, not being fuzzy, and, having that intention that you're opening yourself up to Reiki. Now, do I have to be sober whenever I do Reiki treatments for 24 hours? No. So I wouldn't go out for brunch, have a drink, and then go do a Reiki treatment. Day of, I'm always sober. But if the night before I had a glass of wine with dinner, that would be okay. If I was doing that on a Reiki training weekend, absolutely not. So it is just for the attunements when it comes to Reiki that you have to be 24 hours sober. For normal Reiki, I would say day of soberness. Another thing I want to discuss is the Akashic records, because the Akasha says that you must be 24 hours sober before going in. This is because of that fuzziness, blurriness. So they say that if you are not 24 hours sober, that the Akasha can be harder to understand. You might feel blurry, you might feel fuzzy, you might not get the information correctly, it might not flow as clearly. Again, there's obstructions in your body. I like to think of it as a cloud over your head. We all know what it's like the day after you consume. So you're not in your most tip-top shape. You are feeling cloudy, you have something in your body that's foreign, and it's going to make things harder. And we're definitely not here to make things harder. So for any Akashic record reading that I do, I have to be 24 hours sober. So that is why the price reflects that. My Akashic records is higher in price point, because to me, your session starts the day before. If I have a 12 o'clock Akashic record session on Saturday, that means from Friday at noon, my entire Friday night, I'm not drinking. And you're giving up things, you're not going to things. That's all part of being ready for that session on Saturday. This is actually why I've really, really considered removing Akashic record readings, because of that commitment. And I take it very, very seriously, because I'm not going to risk going into someone's Akasha and, having a few glasses of wine the night before and not delivering the best reading, the clearest reading, not receiving the information correctly. I do not want to take any of those risks for a paying client. So it is a lot of, I guess you could say, sacrifice, but it doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It's more like you're choosing to be aware. You're choosing to be a clear channel. So those are my thoughts on it. So there are a few things where, yes, you have to be 24 hours sober so that your body can be a clear channel. But if you're taking that logic and saying, well, shouldn't your body always be a clear channel? Shouldn't there never be obstructions? Shouldn't there never be foreign things in your body? I would challenge that and say we are still living a human experience. We cannot skip the human experience part. And that's why I find it's really important that, have the beer, have the glass of wine, whatever you want to do. But you have to have the awareness of what you're doing. You can't be bypassing. You can't be trying to skip things. You can't ignore when you're in that grounded state of mind. You can't try to be living in your balloon. But also, we are still human. And part of the human experience is learning, making mistakes, learning lessons, and that can all be connected with these things. And I won't get into the conversation today about psychedelics and, spiritual awakenings, ayahuasca, mushrooms, things like that, only because I don't know enough about it. I don't want to talk about something that I don't know about and kind of spread misinformation. But there's a lot of rabbit holes you can go down when it comes to substances and spiritual awakenings or spirituality. I would just really, really say be mindful of if you're bypassing or if you're avoiding, if you're using substances to avoid or bypass, if you feel like you need them to connect, go deeper, whatever it is. those would all be like warning signs that I would try to dig in deeper of why that's happening. And then also, are you putting yourself in a lot of shoulds of, I should do this, I shouldn't do that, in order to like be this version of yourself that isn't authentic? So those are just my opinions on the subject. I feel like everyone has to make their own opinions for themselves of like what is best for you, what works for you, what works for your body, what are your values and beliefs around this and working with this. So I hope this episode kind of just maybe brought it to your attention, made you think. But I definitely don't think that as human beings working in the spiritual world, we need to be these perfect angels who don't consume at all. There's also the human experience. So life is about balance. And in Reiki, we talk about balance a lot. You need the balance of the right and left side, the balance of your masculine and feminine, the balance of the front and the back. It's a lot about balance. And this is another subject where you need balance. You need human experience and you need your connection. You need that grounded experience, but you also can't ignore your crown. You can't ignore that balloon. So those are my thoughts and opinions. Again, just my thoughts and opinions. You can have your own. I would challenge you to formulate your own and think about how you feel about this. I do feel like sometimes you might feel like you need stints of being sober in order to be clear, in order to clear your mind, it's like fasting, right? With intention, you can move a lot. So if your intention is, I'm, sustaining from this, I'm not going to drink alcohol this month. A lot of my students will like stay sober for the 21 days after their Reiki course because they want to fully experience the 21-day clearing. People who normally smoke cannabis to help them sleep will stop just to see what happens. People who drink wine every night will stop just to be in a clearer mind. I think that's beautiful, and I think with intention you can do whatever you want. If you don't want to drink for your 21 days after your Reiki course, don't. Am I telling you to not? No, I think that's your own personal choice, and I think that you should decide if you want to, because it's also different when I tell you not to do something and when you choose to do it on your own. Again, with intention and action, that's so much more powerful. So that's where I kind of sit on the subject. I'm really a choose your own adventure, make your own decisions, and deal with your own consequences, whichever way they fall. But I guess my sounding message would be, we cannot escape the human experience. There is no skipping this level. We're all here. We all chose to be here. You're living this life. You have lessons to learn. And yeah, they present in a lot of different ways. That's what I wanted to talk about this week. Thank you for your questions on Instagram. I always love having some referrals of what you want to hear me talk about or discuss. Next week will be about the mediums in the mountains and all the cool things I know are going to happen on Sunday. Again, if you want your tickets to that event, I will leave the link down in the show notes. If you wish to book an appointment with me, I offer Akashic Records, distance Reiki, PSYCH-K, in-person Reiki. All of that is available distance or in person. You can come see me in Banff, Alberta. I will leave the links to book down below in the show notes as well. And if you haven't already, I would love and appreciate a rating and a review. It really helps me out in the podcast world to keep growing my little medium in the middle podcast, baby. It is turning 3 this August. I cannot believe it. 3 years of recording, and very, very excited to celebrate that milestone this year. So if you have not already, I would really, really, really appreciate it. It really helps the podcast grow and reach more people. Until next Wednesday, I will see you in your ears next Wednesday. So I hope you all have a great week. Bye.